Hello, the information we will review today is posted on our website and can be found at www.mohavecourts.az.gov. As a reference, this information is posted under Clerk of the Superior Court Forms, Criminal Restoration of Civil Rights. If you are seeking to have your civil rights restored and/or your judgment set aside, you will need to review the cover sheet information to see if you meet specific criteria. In order to apply for restoration of civil rights and/or for having a judgment set aside, you must have been discharged from prison at least 2 years ago, or have been discharged by the court from probation for a criminal offense, according to ARS 13-907. If you meet these criteria, you are eligible to apply for such relief. It is important to note that, pursuant to ARS 13-912, Restoration of Civil Rights for First Offenders exception, any person who has not previously been convicted of any other felony shall automatically be restored any civil rights that were lost or suspended by the conviction if the person both completes a term of probation or receives an absolute discharge from imprisonment and pays any fine or restitution imposed. This section does not apply to a person's right to possess weapons as defined in Section 13-3101, unless the person applies to a court pursuant to Section 13-905 or 13-906. So, if this is your first offense, you may not need to seek relief from courts for your civil rights. Pursuant to ARS 13-904. Suspension of civil rights and occupational disabilities. A conviction for a felony suspends the following civil rights of the person sentenced. For example, the right to vote, the right to hold public office, the right to serve as a juror. You may find additional information for this rule at www.azleg.gov. You may also apply for restoration of civil rights and for having a judgment set aside if you were discharged from probation for a federal offense. If you were convicted of a dangerous offense, ARS 13-704, you may not file for the restoration of the right to possess or carry a gun or firearm. If you were convicted of a serious offense, ARS 13-706, a person may not file for restoration of the right to possess or carry a gun or firearm for 10 years from the date of discharge from probation. Convicted of any other felony offense, the person may not file for the restoration of his right to possess or carry a gun or firearm for 2 years from the date of his discharge from probation. If your offense does not fall into the previous categories, you are eligible to apply for relief pursuant to ARS 13-909 and file an application with the Clerk of the Superior Court in the county in which you now reside. If you were sentenced in Mohave County and you were discharged from probation, no proof is needed. If you were discharged from prison, a certificate of discharge from the Director of the State Department of Corrections is needed. If you were sentenced in federal court and you were discharged from probation, an affidavit of discharge from the judge who discharged you is needed. If you were discharged from prison, copies of your indictment or complaint, plea agreement, sentencing, and discharge paperwork are needed. Let's review the instructions for each section of the application. It will be important to complete Section 1 with your current information. In Section 2, enter your name. In Section 3, enter your case number. If you do not know this information, the clerk may do a search in the case management system. In Section 4, you must indicate what relief you are seeking from the court. If you are seeking to restore your civil rights, you should mark that box. If you are seeking to vacate the judgment of guilt and dismiss charges, you should mark that box. In Section 5, enter your current physical home address and phone number. In Section 6, enter your judgment and sentencing information. The clerk may do a search for this information in the case management system. Note, you may obtain copies of your sentencing paperwork from the clerk's office for a fee. In Section 7, if you were discharged from your probation, enter your probation information. In Section 8, you must indicate which civil rights you are seeking relief for. In Section 9, you would complete this section if you were sentenced for a felony in the Superior Court. You must indicate what type of discharge applies. In Section 10, you would complete this section only if you were sentenced for a felony in federal court. Important, there is an additional form titled Federal Restoration of Civil Rights that will need to be completed and submitted at the same time. Section 11. You may ask the court to restore your right to possess a gun or firearm 2 years after discharge from probation or absolute discharge from prison if you were convicted of any other state felony offense. 10 years after discharge from probation or absolute discharge from prison if you were convicted of a serious offense as defined by ARS 13-706. However, if you were convicted of a dangerous offense pursuant to ARS 13-704 or any federal felony offense, you may not file for the restoration of the right to possess or carry a gun or firearm. Section 12. You must indicate if you are seeking relief and asking the court to set aside the judgment. Pursuant to ARS 13-912C, setting aside judgment of convicted person or discharge, application, release from disabilities, exceptions. If the judge grants the application, the judge shall set aside the judgment of guilt and order that the person be released from all penalties and disabilities resulting from the conviction other than those imposed. Section 13. Check the appropriate box indicating whether you completed probation or were sentenced to prison. Section 14. Sign and date the application. Let's review the instructions on how to complete the order. This order will be attached to the application and submitted to the clerk's office. It is very similar to the application. It will be important to complete the Section 1 with your current information. In Section 2, enter your case number. In Section 3, you must indicate what relief you are seeking from the court. If you are seeking to restore your civil rights, you should mark that box. If you are seeking to vacate the judgment of guilt and dismiss charges, you should mark that box. Note, this section should match what you previously entered on your application. In Section 4, enter your judgment and sentencing information. As previously mentioned, you may obtain copies of your case from the clerk's office for a fee. In Section 5, select the type of discharge applicable. Take the original and 2 copies of the application in order and file it with the Clerk of Superior Court. Be sure to include 2 self-addressed stamped envelopes. You may visit any of the 3 locations in Mohave County. Kingman Office, 401 East Spring Street, Post Office Box 7000, Kingman, Arizona 86402, 928-753-0713. Business hours Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Lake Havasu City, 2001 College Drive, Lake Havasu City, Arizona 86404, 928-453-0701. Business hours Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m., 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Bullhead City Office, 2225 Train Road, Bullhead City, Arizona 86442, 928-758-0730. Business hours Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m., 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. It is important to note that there is no filing fee for this service. Upon review of the court, you will receive notification of any decision rendered in your case by mail to the physical address indicated on your application and order via the envelope you provide. We hope you have found this video helpful. For additional information on this topic or others, please visit our website at www.mohavecourts.az.gov.